Stories are the most powerful thing on earth. They are literally life and death. Wars are waged based on the story of who is the hero and who is the villain. You are the result of a story your parents told each other, the one-night stand, the soulmate, and friends who became so much more. Life and death. So wouldn't you like to understand them better, these stories? How Story Works, an elegant guide to the craft of storytelling by Lonnie Diane Rich, demystifies stories and helps you understand why you love what you love, why you hate what you hate, and why prologues are almost always a bad idea. How Story Works by Lonnie Diane Rich. Available on Amazon in ebook, audiobook, and paperback form. Get your copy today.
Welcome to Still Pretty, a Buffy the Vampire Slayer podcast from Chipperish Media. I'm story expert Lonnie Diane Rich, and my hat has a cow.
And I'm film scholar and the one who's stinky, Noelle LaCroix. And we're here today to talk about As You Were, the 15th episode of Season 6. As You Were aired on February 26th, 2002, and was written and directed by Douglas Petrie.
Still Pretty is a fully spoiled, full-spectrum Buffy podcast, so if you haven't seen all of the show, go take care of that, and we'll start to have dreams of gardenia bouquets.
You're awfully chipper tonight. So let's go on patrol. In As You Were, Buffy's working another dead-end shift with a white dude who clearly doesn't know what glass ceiling means lecturing her on the glass ceiling. On her way home, she gets attacked by a vampire who rejects her because she smells like Double Meat Palace. At home, she gets stopped by Spike, who's been waiting outside her house, and he talks her into having sex on the lawn. When she finally goes inside, Dawn rejects the food she brought home.
I can't eat this stuff another night.
Dawn and Willow invite Buffy out to the Bronze, but Buffy decides to stay home. At the Bronze, Xander and Anya stress out about their upcoming nuptials, and Willow talks hopefully about her relationship with Tara. At home, Buffy tries and fails to get the grass stains out of her awesome yellow coat. She misses the garbage truck and gets rejected for readmission to UC Sunnydale because her readmission form was late. She has a pile of dishes to do, and then she goes back to work, and this fucking thing happens.
Riley,
Sorry to just drop in on you like this, Buffy.
it's you.
That's me.
Riley's back, all dressed in black with a scar over his eye like that's supposed to mean he's cool and not a douchebag. He tells her something's up and he needs her help. She quits her job immediately and goes off with him, and his tech starts beeping because there's a demon nearby, and they fight it and it gets away. They drive off after it in what I guess is supposed to be Riley's super cool car, and they catch up.
Got some big stories to tell you too. We yet have a second.
Did you die?
No.
I'm gonna win.
Riley gives Buffy a military outfit that he just happens to have in his car, in her size, but whatever. He brings her to a reservoir and they share a rappel line, which is exactly as sexy as it seems, which isn't very. But there's music hinting that this is supposed to be very romantic/sexy, so okay, TV show. They get attacked by the demon, kick it twice, and it falls down and apparently experiences tonic immobility, giving Buffy and Riley a moment to stare deeply into each other's eyes as the romantic music heightens and they're totally about to kiss, but then a woman rappels down next to them and says,
What exactly are you doing with my husband?
Riley introduces Buffy to his wife, Sam, and then the demon recovers from playing dead and attacks, and they both let Sam just, handle it by herself while they chat about how Riley's fucking married. Riley jumps into the fight and then Buffy kills it, except they weren't supposed to kill it, which, Riley could have told her that. Also, now the wife, who was jealous and territorial a few seconds ago, is totally on Buffy's side and is very cool in giving Riley shit about not telling the Slayer what was going on. And it appears that we can rappel into a water reservoir, but we cannot maintain a single line of conflict for more than a few seconds, but okay, TV show. Sam asks if Buffy has a safe house, and Buffy brings them home, where Dawn gives Riley a much-deserved stink eye, while everyone else gives him a welcome home, old chap slap on the shoulder. Willow performs the rite of shooting hate at the woman who just saved her best friend's life, while smiling at the man who misled, flirted with, and almost kissed said best friend without telling her he was married, but Okay, TV show.
Just so you know, I'm prepared to hate this woman any way you want.
Riley and Sam explain that the demon laid a bunch of eggs and they have to find them before they get sold on the black market. There's a dealer in town known only as the Doctor. Sam says something to upset Willow, but then goes in to talk to Willow and is super humble, and Willow smiles. And then Sam and Buffy go on patrol, and Sam's super humble and not an actual character, and Buffy finally gets tired of how awful the writing is and goes off to see Spike. She asks for information, and they end up having sex. And then Riley walks in because, of course he does. He says Spike's the Doctor, but Buffy doesn't believe it.
It can't be, okay? He's too incompetent.
Buffy goes down into Spike's crypt with Riley and finds all the eggs. Spike tries to explain, but Buffy won't hear it, so he starts blaming her for being mad when she's always known what he is. And he's got a point, but the eggs start hatching, so Spike runs off while Buffy and Riley blow up his crypt with a grenade. As, you know, you do. Outside the magic box, Buffy and Riley say goodbye before he jets off to Nepal or whatever. Who cares? He tells her he has authorization to kill Spike and asks if that's okay with her. She says no. Spike's protected by Delight armor. There's no way through that shit. You can stake him, throw him in the sunlight, light him on fire all at once, but the writers will not allow it. Riley tells Buffy how amazing she is and shows her compassion, all stuff which might be nice if he wasn't made of cardboard. Sam comes out and everyone loves her, and instead of getting in Riley's sexy SUV and driving away like, you know, people, a helicopter drops a line and lifts them out.
What a bitch.
Back at Spike's freshly charred crypt, he surveys the damage when Buffy shows up to break up with him.
I can't love you. I'm just being weak and selfish,
Really not complaining here.
and it's killing me. I have to be strong about this. I'm sorry, William.
Buffy leaves Spike in his crypt, goes out into the sunlight, and walks away with determination and purpose. Okay, TV show. Okay. All right, so Noelle, here we are in As You Were, an episode which I famously hate. So let's find out what you thought about it.
Oh boy. Oh, Riley, you big toasted mayonnaise sandwich on Wonder Bread, you. God.
You know what's funny is, I'm sorry, but behind the scenes, we had a little text messaging thing back and forth where I was like, yeah, but toast kind of gives things flavor. And then you had a perfect response to that. Could you share that with me?
What was my response? I actually don't remember.
Oh my God, it was so great. You're like, yeah, but he's got that scar over his eye, so that gives him a little flavor.
Right, yeah, he's like a
That's
little
toasty,
edgy
right?
with a scar now. Okay, cool, sure, right. The scar is the toastedness, right?
The scar is where the toast
mean,
comes from, but everything else
yeah.
is just cold mayonnaise sandwich.
Cool, man.
Yes.
I'm,
Mhm.
you know, I'm kind of fine with Riley. I famously am a little bit of a Riley defender, whatever.
Right.
And maybe it's just because Mark Lucas is big and cute and pretty, whatever.
Yeah, he is all of those things.
But
Mhm.
the thing about this episode for me is that I get done with the episode before the episode is over.
I get done before it started.
No, I'm like done before it's over. I don't hate it. I just don't love
Yeah.
it. Like it feels
Yeah.
like it's too long, and I don't know.
Mhm.
And there's some stuff I like. You know, I really like the Dawn that we get. I absolutely loathe the Willow.
Oh,
Whose
yeah.
whole attitude to me just whiffs of a queer woman written by a straight dude.
Yeah.
But the whole episode overall for me just kind of shakes down to meh.
Yeah, it does. It's just like, okay, I hate this episode. Like, this is the episode in the entire run of Buffy that I absolutely hate the most. Not because it's necessarily like the worst episode. Like, I think Go Fish is probably the worst episode, but because the writing in this, the character work is so phenomenally bad, you know?
Mhm.
And that drives me crazy. Now, I get the value of the like tear a character down so you can build them back up kind of narrative, and I've written those kind of narratives, and I actually quite like them. But nothing of which Buffy is supposed to be ashamed. Her job, her enjoying sex with Spike, dropping out of school to support her sister is actually shameful. So I've already had the irritation of that this entire season. And then we bring back Riley as though he's the one who got away. And the way she fawns over him is the most degrading thing. That is way more degrading than sleeping with Spike, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And aside from that, Riley and Sam are the worst examples, or maybe the best examples of cardboard characters, of terrible frickin' writing. And of all the things that would break up Spike and Buffy, like this cartoonish evil is the thing, you know?
Yeah.
And God, it's so bad. It drives me crazy. We have a cardboard character as a caricature of himself. And when you duplicate cardboard in character writing, it's just white noise. It makes me crazy. I hate the whole thing.
Right.
Almost. There's some of it. There is some of it, of course, that I like. And you know it's going to be about Spike.
Yeah.
That's fine. So anyway, all of that said, my vitriol will last. That sounds like a lot of vitriol. Like maybe I spent it all. No, I did not. It'll last for the whole episode of this podcast. All right. So give me some of your thoughts on what we're doing here and As You Were.
On what we're doing here. You mean my section heading This Week in Men? Because
This Week in Men, baby.
You know, my favorite subject and my area of expertise.
Right.
But really, it's just like this whole episode feels like a series of not bad men necessarily, but like bad interactions with men. I mean, we literally open with this douche nozzle fellow employee who is 100% that guy.
Oh,
like we
my
have
God.
all worked with that guy or gone to school with that guy. Like everybody knows that guy. And, you know, I despise him, obviously.
Well, of course.
But I love him as kind of a coda to the episode Double Meat Palace, because he's not scary because he's poor or maybe neurodivergent or any of the other harmful nonsense we saw in Double Meat Palace about what makes people quote unquote dangerous. He's scary because he's so completely pompous, smug, self-satisfied, and overly chipper. Sorry, Lonnie. Especially about fucking Machiavelli. Like, calm down, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
and why are we giving this guy so much dialogue, so much real estate in this episode? He's in 2 scenes.
Well,
do we
his
need that?
whole thing is about how he talks, right? You know, calling it the palace, you know?
Yeah.
And then his whole thing, you know, his little, oh, I keep forgetting you dropped out of college. It's like, oh, come on.
Oh, my
Come
God.
on.
And he's supposed to be, I mean, like, textually, we're supposed to hate that guy. And so, like, you know, okay, I guess. But at the same time, I mean, you know, who cares?
Yeah.
You know?
And I don't know, maybe this is an attempt at, like, these are the options for Buffy, right? Because, like, zooming forward through my whole This Week in Men thing is we finally get to Riley. And Riley being the quote-unquote one who got away is supposed to be what motivates Buffy to make a quote-unquote good decision for herself and break up with Spike. But it just doesn't, it's so flimsy. It's so flimsy.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe this guy is supposed to be like, well, this is the guy. Like, it's this guy or it's Spike. I don't think that it's that thought out necessarily, but it seems significant that we start with this self-satisfied, you know, Double Meat Palace dude, and then we have this self-satisfied vampire dude who refuses to bite Buffy because she's the one who's stinky, right?
Right.
You know, and then add injury to insult, I guess. After the credits roll, we have Spike spiking around outside the Summers house, doing his, like, poor, pitiful me routine, and he's extra on with his little petulant, you know, why not kind of like
Why can't I have sex?
Yeah, why can't I can't come inside, so you should come outside, which, okay, clever wordplay, fine. I'll give you, you can have that one, Douglas, but I'm not letting you off the hook for some of this writing. Like, it's just, I don't know.
And this is shocking to me because Doug Petrie is seriously one of my favorite television writers ever.
Well,
he has written some of my favorite episodes in the series. I am shocked at all of this.
Well, and that's another thing about this episode that we can, get into, which is it is very written. Like, all of the dialogue.
Yeah.
All of the dialogue has this kind of punchy, back and forth, witty repartee. Like, we're supposed to know that Buffy and Riley are, MFEO because they have this weird exchange at Double Meat Palace that's very it's a little bit Nora Ephron, like he's been up for 48 hours straight tracking something. And Buffy's reply is, my hat has a cow. Like, it's, like it's great. Like, it's great back and forth, but it doesn't fit with.
It doesn't fit them.
I don't know.
And Riley is not Riley. Like, this is a some kind of, like, okay, back in the day when you used to have photocopies, right? And if you did a photocopy of a photocopy, it would be blurry. And then if you did a photocopy of that, it would be blurry. It's called generational loss. Like, we have 15 levels of generational loss on Riley here, to the point where it's really not Riley. It's like they got a cardboard stand-up of Mark Blucas and there's somebody just moving it around the set, Like,
oh no,
it's so wrong.
Sad.
But that's exactly the way that it is. And Riley, let's not forget that Riley was a bit cardboard to begin with.
Well,
so by the time you've got all of that, it's so weird.
Well, and it is weird to me, especially that we've got this Riley and Buffy working together and fighting together thing. And they do have this really punchy back and forth. And she is just smitten. Like, suddenly he's back and he's so cool. And I don't know if it's the all black or the eye scar or whatever. There's something going on because she is completely back in it in a way with him that she never was when they were together. Like, I feel like, and you can probably speak to this better than I can, but they're doing this perfect match thing with them. Like, they're so in sync and it's so hot when they have to rappel down the side of the dam together on one cable rope, what it's like,
right, because they can afford to have a helicopter come out and rappel him out rather than make him drive to wherever the airport is. But they cannot afford 2 rappel lines.
It's so odd to me.
Right?
They're playing.
I don't know if that's what they're called, rappel lines.
Yeah, whatever they're called.
That, right?
But see, it doesn't even matter. Like, it doesn't matter because what it is it's all this set dressing of Riley's so cool and so hot, and Buffy and Riley are so perfect matchy and so right for each other. And I'm like, no. They were not a perfect match when they were together.
Yeah,
were
it's
they?
gaslighting.
Am I misremembering? No. I feel
it's narrative gaslighting. It is this thing where the text really super wants you to believe something that is patently untrue. Right. And so we have all this stuff, like we have the music and we have the way the shot is and we have her jumping up on him. By the way, in a shot that looks very, very similar to when she and Spike were fucking the house down, right?
Yep.
She's up. She's a little bit higher than him. She's wrapped around him.
Yep.
It is exactly a match shot to when Spike and Buffy were fucking the house down. I don't think that was a mistake, but I also feel like it's a mistake. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it was not the way to do this. And they've got all this music playing and the two of them looking deeply into each other's eyes. And we're clearly saying that this is the way that this is. When even if you hadn't seen the rest of I would argue that if you show this episode to somebody who has not seen any Buffy, they would still be like, what? Like, we're being forced this sense of connection and chemistry between these two when there is none.
Yeah. Yeah. It's manufactured chemistry. Well, and it's I feel like, it's narrative gaslighting. I feel like they're trying to retcon, oh, he really was her perfect match all along.
Right.
Which, I mean, brings us to the idea of the one that got away, right? This whole concept of the one that got away. I mean, first of all, I think it's such a weird, it's a weird idea just in isolation. But what I find actually genuinely interesting about this episode is that the one that got away, or the one who's out of your league as being kind of a motivating force for a protagonist, feels like a thing that we usually see spun a little bit differently. Like, I'm very used to the idea of the man who's motivated by the woman who shows him what life could be like, you know, in this, like, if you open up and, like, embrace who you really are, your life is going to be fabulous. And usually that's a woman motivating a man in some way.
Right.
And this feels like a little bit of a reversal, or maybe a remix, because it is ostensibly Riley and Sam being a perfect match, who are so perfect for each other that prompts Buffy to quote unquote break up with Spike.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm intrigued in that sense by this, like, Riley shows up and shows Buffy a vision of a different life for herself, because it does feel just a little bit trope subverting. But I don't know, like, shrug, right? Because Buffy, like, I don't know what, you know, it's like not, it's just not, it's just, there's not a lot of there, you know, like Buffy tells Sam she doesn't want to be defined by who she's with, but she kind of does. Because what makes Riley okay is that he's with Sam. I don't know. And that whole thing is so confusing too. And this is supposed to be motivating for Buffy somehow. You know, Sam says the only thing that could help Riley was time, lots of time. But they've been married for 4 months. And Riley's only been gone for a year, according to Dawn, unless I misunderstood the timeline there. So I'm like, wait.
No, it was about mid season 5 that he took off and into the woods.
Yeah.
You know, and it's been lovely having no Riley, you know, for that time. But yeah, if they've been married for 4 months and he's been gone for 12, right? That leaves 8 months for him to go wherever he was going, meet Sam, get over Buffy, fall in love with Sam, propose, have a wedding. Because let's not forget, later on, we have all this talk about the wedding, which apparently took no time to plan, but Sam was perfectly able to do it with these disposable cameras. And here's what you do, and this is how you plan a wedding, and yada, yada, yada. Like, these two didn't just
a helicopter from a guerrilla squad. You know, it's fine, like you do.
As you do.
Normal wedding stuff. Totally.
So the whole thing, the timeline is ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous, that 2 cardboard people would get together and then have lovely cardboard babies. You know, fine, I guess. But it's awful. And the thing is that, like, I don't even know. I love, like, how generous your read is on this whole one who got away, that maybe there's something interesting that they're doing with that. Like, I think that I love that you found something there that kind of, like, tries to hold it together.
Well, mostly because it's a big question mark for me. I'm like, well, what exactly are they trying to do here? Like, I don't know.
I
don't quite get it.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. Like, the initiative, as we knew, like, from season 4, which was a while ago, in which we've had plenty of time for everybody who worked on Buffy to sit down and have a nice, good cry and a post-mortem about what went wrong in season 4, right? The initiative did not work in the Buffy world for a number of reasons. So I know, let's bring Riley back for an episode, and initiative even harder. Like, also, what is up with Riley's outfit? He's complaining about her in the orange pylon, and he's wearing that. Oh, yeah, you blend. What is that? You know? And the off-brand Mission Impossible music under his explanation of the demon. I mean, whatever. Like, the whole thing is ridiculous. Not to mention that the lines of conflict in this thing are so fucked up. Buffy has this job that she hates, but which she needs in order to take care of her sister. And she does that while slaying, right? So she has been struggling with this job, which she does not love, a job which almost killed her with a giant penis demon, right? There are a million reasons for her to quit Double Meat Palace, but the thing that actually inspires her to throw down her cow hat and split is Riley Finn comes to town and she quits just because cute guy, like, oh, cute guy came in, so now all my bills have disappeared and my responsibility to my sister and keeping our house is just gone, right?
Because that's exactly how it works in real life, right? Like, you know, you meet someone and then all of your financial problems go away. Like, it's like,
that's the inspiration. Like, forget the inspiration to break up with Spike. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But the inspiration to quit her job that she has hated and which has been but she needs that money. So, like, what is that about? I don't understand any of that. Then we get to this, Riley's clearly about to kiss Buffy. Like, they've had this whole thing, and he's like, no, I'm a gentleman. I'm not going to look at you while you change into this outfit, which is absolutely your size, and I have just happened to sit in the back of my car, right?
Not creepy at all, Finn. Not creepy. It's fine.
Exactly. No, it's so freaking weird. So we have him. He's clearly about to kiss Buffy, and then he's married. Oh, no. And she drops in and she's all jealous. What are you doing with my husband? Da, 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 da. And then all of a sudden we have a commercial break and swap the jealous wife out with this other girl who's completely cool and like so self-deprecating and all this kind of stuff.
God. Don't get me started on the hot girl who's like, oh, but I'm so bad at everything.
Oh, but I don't know. I mean, I swear to God, during the whole thing, it felt so overdone that it was like, oh, look at me, I'm just a girl who's really gonna like fuck your shit up, right? Deep underneath it. But she's playing that dimpled I'm just a girl bullshit, which everybody is falling for. So textually we're being gaslighted again that this is actually genuinely who she is. Then she has this, she says something to Willow about, you were a hardcore Wicca, and then Willow's like, well, no, I was addicted. And Willow walks off like in a weird kind of snit. This woman didn't know. She didn't know. How was she supposed to know that? She didn't know that. But I'm going to hate her because let's hate the woman rather than Riley, who had all of that time to say. They were driving in the car for quite a while. He could have been like, yeah, well, I got married. That could have been fine. Amy and Buffy were able to, so how you been? Rat. You? Dead. Okay.
Totally.
That takes 2 seconds to do that kind of a catch up, right? And then he couldn't say that he was then staring longingly into her eyes while the music plays in the background. Like, he had plenty of time to tell her he was married and chose not to. So I have to presume, asshole. But Willow decides to hate the woman.
Right.
Because misogyny.
Yeah. That's one of those things for me in this episode that's like funny for a split second. Willow saying, I am prepared to hate this woman in any way you want. And Buffy's like, no, it's fine. It's really fine. And Willow's like, no, it's not. Let me be the friend. Like, it's cute for a split second. And then it's like, hold up. Wait a minute. Yeah. What's with why the girl on girl hate? Other than this is just what we do, right? Because
we're playing in tropes that we don't even care about. It's automated writing. It feels like if you gave this to a computer algorithm, they could have pumped this out. That doesn't understand, like, I don't know how humans work, and also especially like how Willow works, because that's not a Willow thing. Like, so that whole thing was weird. Then Willow goes off and she's all petulant in the kitchen, just sitting and brooding by herself. And then Sam comes in and says, I don't know, I'm just a girl. And Willow's like, oh, you're so sweet. And then smiles. And then suddenly we're supposed to like Sam and think that Willow's fine with it or whatever. But the thing about Sam is that she's a reflector character. Like, she exists just to reflect light on the other characters that are there. But she's also made of cardboard. So she's like a cardboard reflector that's been sprayed with silver paint and does not reflect much or well, but that's just really all that they do. And Riley is also like more cardboard than he ever was. And that's a low fucking bar. That's made out of cardboard. Like, it's so weird
I just love that nothing about Riley has ever worked for you ever. Like, it's just so delightful to me that you're just like,
In the
nope.
beginning of season 4, I didn't mind him in the beginning of season 4. But yeah, I don't know.
When he's just your hot TA who you kind of want to,
when he's just a doofus floppy haired douchebag. Like it's there's something like when they try to give Riley a conflict or a story of his own, what they do with him is so stupid, and he's always like, I'm so in love with you that it's your fault that I'm an asshole. Like that kind of stuff is like, that's not romantic. It's not romantic to be like, I'm so in love with you that you make me act like a dick.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
No, you gotta kind of get over that. So there's a lot of things, and anybody who wants to know what those things are could just listen to the last, 45 episodes of Still Pretty and get a full list of all the reasons why I hate Riley. But the whole thing here, I just don't understand what they're doing. Buffy's having great sex with Spike, who's a vampire, and she knows who he is and what he does, and he's never hidden that from her. Let's not forget Double Meat Palace, where he says, I can get money. She knows exactly what he's talking about how he gets his money. She's been looking the other way on all of this stuff for a long time. Okay, so all of that stuff, but Riley's the thing that makes her realize that this is not good enough for her. Like, Riley?
It's so odd. It's so odd. I mean, I said it already, but I'm going to say it again. It's like we bring in Riley as this like pre-charged symbol of like what could have been Buffy's perfect life. But when we look back on Buffy and Riley, like that wasn't a perfect relationship in any way. Like it was barely a relationship. So now here he is as this like, oh, you could have had this guy, and instead you're stuck working at Double Meat Palace and having sex with Spike. And it's like, hold on, wait a minute. Like,
and you know what? Fair trade.
Yeah, it's like, you know what it is? I feel like they moved the emotional goalposts on me.
Yeah.
That is how it feels. Like, I think I'm parsing this out right now as we're talking. I think I don't mind the idea on its own of like, Buffy has this life that she is not happy with or she's settling for or whatever. She has a Slayer job and then she has a money job and she's got this sister to support and bills to pay. And, I don't know, maybe she would like to have some emotional fulfillment of her own, but like that is out of reach. And then this person returns to her life who's like, hey, actually, your life can be another way. Like, I think that story is a good story. I think that could be really satisfying. But it's done with Riley as this, like, preloaded symbol of a perfect life for Buffy when he never was that and was never going to be that. She wasn't happy with Riley. So, yeah, it's a little bit of, like, I feel like the emotional goalposts have moved, and I'm supposed to look at this and go, O'Reilly is this beacon of like inspiration and hope because he has gone on to find, he's like, I love my job and I love my wife. And I don't know this is my man voice, apparently. I love my job and I love my wife. And like, that's supposed to inspire Buffy to be like, wait a second, I don't love my job and I don't love the person I'm fucking and maybe I should make a change. But it's not, I don't know. It's just not there.
Right. But you know what? As you were talking, though, I just got something that should have been done, was not done in the narrative, but would have made so much more sense is when we get to Buffy at the end with Spike, where she says, I'm using you and it's killing me. Right?
Yeah.
Like, she was using Riley, too. She was using Riley as an access point to normal.
Yeah.
She did not love Riley. She was not into Riley. She never said, I love you, Riley. She never said, she never talked to him about anything that was bothering her. She talked to Spike more than she confides in Spike and always has more than she ever confided in Riley. Yeah. She was using Riley, and that was bad for her. And so this is not what is in the text here, but would have made it so much better because the only good thing in this episode is that ending with Buffy and Spike, Yeah.
So,
yeah, I don't know. Like, it's it drives me crazy the writing is so bad, especially because the writing is coming from Doug Petrie, who is an amazing writer. So I don't know what happened. Although we all have bad days, like it happens. Like we all have, everybody has days in which they're not quite as on as they would like to be. That happens. It's fine. But I'm just surprised because he's an amazing writer. But I do actually like within this episode really do like the Buffy Spike stuff to a certain degree. Like I like when she says, "Tell me you love me.
Yeah.
Tell me you want me," right? Like that's enough. Like the fact that he loves her is enough. She's trying to hold on to something that she knows isn't working. I'm going to headcanon now that she knew she was using Riley, and that's what Riley illuminates for her during this episode, though that is absolutely not what the text wants us to take away. But that makes much more sense to me. But the thing that drives me crazy, though, even within the Buffy and Spike stuff, is the fact that Buffy heard this story about some idiot calling himself the Doctor and selling dangerous demon eggs and didn't immediately think, oh yeah, on brand Spike, right? Because that is 100% on brand for Spike. I mean, she's not with him because she's deluding herself about what he is. Like she knows exactly what he is, and I would have loved it if she had asked him if it was him and he lied to her and she believed him, which is the first step to trust, because we just had that.
Yeah.
I think it was in Gone, right?
Yes.
Do you trust me? Never. It wasn't Gone. It was Dead Things. Dead Things. Do you trust me? Never, right? And if she trusted him and then he betrayed that trust, which doubles down on this is what he is. Not just that he would do this stupid, dangerous, destructive thing, but that he would also lie to her about it.
Yeah.
The eggs are stupid. The lie is weak and cowardly and speaks more to character. And it would also be personal. The eggs aren't personal, but you make that shit personal. That's what should shine the light for her, that this isn't something that she can do.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you wanted to do something with the eggs and make it feel a little bit more personal, because there is this, all right, this is maybe a stretch, but there is this weird through line of family and children that runs through this episode.
Yeah.
With, Xander and Anya are planning their wedding, and one of the things that comes up is Xander says, then we'll have kids and they'll hate us and they'll sleep on our couch, and it's, it's the circle of life.
Right.
This whole thing, the way that Riley describes the demon to Buffy is they're breeders. And there's this, they're quippy, Buffy and Riley's quippy little thing about, oh, how long have you been married? 4 months, mazel tov. Any children? Like, the idea of marriage and children being this thing that go together in this like future life kind of way. And then, of course, we have Spike, who has these eggs in his basement in this like this kind of, I mean, literally demonic, but also repellent breeding kind of way that further highlights this will not get you where you want to go, Buffy. Like nature of this relationship. If we're, we're working within the hegemonic ideal of, relationship leads to marriage, leads to offspring.
Children, yes.
I don't know. Like, again, it's a stretch, but something there about like a future with Spike being, unsustainable and miserable because there are literal demon eggs. I don't know. Again,
I love it. I love that you are willing to stretch to find something of value
because I want it to be there. Like
right?
When they're doing,
because
they're clearly doing this thing in this episode about marriage, right? Like that's the big. It's not just that Riley's back; it's that Riley is married.
Yeah,
the Xander Anya stuff is. They're getting married and there's this friction about their wedding versus their marriage, which, ouch, by the way. Like, right. I mean, next week, but that's a big source of the friction and like who their families are. And they have, there's friction between them about, his family versus her people and what that's going to be. So I don't know. There's this whole thing about marriage and family happening, and then Buffy with Spike and no future because all of the reasons that we've discussed, he's He's
and
dead.
the idea that
He's
marriage
a
and family,
demon.
that the lack of the option to get married and have babies, like how reductive that idea is.
Yeah.
Feels like it fits in with this episode, like this idea that that's the value to which Buffy needs to aspire, and great sex is not the value to which she needs to aspire, which I think is actually an okay value.
Or like,
So yeah,
you know,
I don't know.
connection, whatever.
Yeah. The fact that she talks to Spike more than she ever spoke to Riley, she ever really talked to Riley. Yeah, I think that, I don't know, the whole thing is, but I actually have this idea, like it's nascent.
Okay.
It's a theory, right? Of like what I'm going to call the Riley effect. I think that Riley, in every episode that he is in, incrementally makes it worse. So like when it starts at the beginning of season 4, like his presence in an episode will take it down like 1-2% in quality. And then that, you know, over time just accumulates like plaque buildup until we finally get to As You Were, in which case he just is 95% worse. Because as soon as Riley and his terrible cardboard wife fly off in the helicopter, which I will never forgive this show for. That is like the most egregious fucking thing. The episode actually starts to get a little bit better, you know, because then we get the Spike stuff and Buffy kind of making her own realization and having her own self-determination. And that's actually a nice scene at the end of the episode. But Riley's presence is just a damper, a quality dampener on this whole thing. You know, this whole thing, nice wheels. Came with the car. Like, okay, first of all, that apparently is my man voice. Came with the car. That he is. We're trying to make him cool. We give him a scar over his eye, and now suddenly he's cool. Buffy, I meant to tell you when the time was right. Okay, like you were in the car for like 20 minutes, you know, and when she was jumping on you and you were rappelling down, like you could definitely be like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm married. You know, there's a million ways to say that. Super duper married. You know, and then there's this whole thing where he's like, she caught up to us a hell of a lot faster than I would have thought possible. Like complimenting his wife and also being like, I thought I had more time. I thought I could at least kiss you a couple of times before I told you I got married, before she showed up. So it's like now Sam's fault for being super speedy and competent that she interrupted his ability to like tell Buffy the truth or whatever. It's just bad. And then like to add insult to injury, right? In the time that it takes for them to drive back to Buffy's from wherever the hell they were, right?
Right.
Buffy has called everyone at home, filled them in on absolutely everything. They know that Riley's married. They know who Sam is. Also filled Riley in on everything that's going on with all of them, because when he comes in, he's like, hey, you guys are getting married. Congratulations. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
Like he knows the whole history of Xander and Anya. Yeah, the episode is so annoying.
Oh, and you didn't think to mention that your friend is in recovery and like maybe don't mention magic. Like,
and maybe don't mention
Buffy,
magic. Yeah.
come on.
No, I mean,
I don't
God.
know. God.
Come on. Okay, but Great Dawn, though, right?
Oh my God. Okay, I love
Can
Dawn.
we love Up and Dawn?
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. I love, especially after last time, I love how tender she is with Buffy about like, it's so sweet and it's like kind of heartbreaking, but there's this like acceptance of, yeah, I know you're working, like don't work too hard. I'll see you when I see you kind of energy that's just very, very dear. And I just want to squeeze her. She's so sweet. I love her.
She is so sweet. She doesn't whine at all about Buffy working. She's so sweet about turning down the double meat. She just can't. She can't eat it again. She just can't. But she has been eating that well past the time where she was like, oh God, I can't take another burger. Like it, you know, it took a lot of double meat for her to get to the point where she's like, I'm so sorry. I just can't have this again. I love that. I love when she's talking to Willow and she's being so supportive and she's like, oh, there's a date opportunity at the wedding and all this kind of stuff. And it's so sweet. You know, I love everything that is Dawn. Also, not to mention the fact that while Willow is shooting misogyny daggers at Sam, Dawn is putting the hate where it belongs, like on Riley.
Yep.
You know, she is having none of his bullshit, and I love it.
I love Dawn being salty with Riley. I love it.
I do.
She's like, she is not fooled. Like, you don't show up with a scar and a wife and everything is fine, my friend. Like, that sucked when you left last time. And then when she acknowledges it again, she's like, yeah, like, this is terrible. She's great.
Mm-hmm.
She is great. And I feel for her. And I also love that she's just kind of letting the Xander and Anya snippiness like roll off of her. You know, she's so sweet to them at the Bronze and they're all stressed out and she's like, okay, I'll be over here then. Like, just not my business. Dawn is great.
Dawn is awesome. But that gives us a nice, like, you know, shift over into the Xander and Anya. I guess you could call it a B story thing going on where they're just eating chips and getting stressed about, you know, family. I think when they're in the bathroom and you can hear everybody yelling, and also they have a weirdly lit bathroom. It seems like the actual bathtub itself glows blue and is like shooting light up from the bathtub, which is interesting.
Yeah.
That's a choice. You know, I don't know. I don't care for the Xander and Anya stuff in this episode. I find it all weird. But there is this moment though where Anya says the Gnarls are coming in 20 minutes, and if nobody meets them, and then like the demon from Same Time, Same Place at the beginning of season 7, the one that eats part of Willow's stomach skin. It's so gross.
It's fine. It's totally fine.
His name is Gnarl, and Anya knows what he is. So I find that kind of interesting. I think that maybe he came in for the wedding and then just decided to stay.
Who knows? Yeah.
That might be
Or
it.
they liked that name and went with it.
Also, that is definitely an option.
You know,
definitely an option.
Because when you have a bunch of demons, you got to name them all. But yeah.
No, it's crazy. So anyway, like I also really don't like the chips scenes. Here's why though. Like, if you've ever heard a story from actors about what happens when they have to eat something in a scene, like, you know, you see the way that Emma Caulfield is nibbling on that chip like it is, you know, like a little squirrel, like nibbling on something. It's really super cute. It's the kind of thing that would ordinarily annoy me because, you know, women aren't allowed to eat. Although skinny women are allowed to eat like a ton as long as they don't gain a pound, right? It's that whole thing. So the way that women are made to eat in media is an incredibly frustrating subject for me. But like the thing is that when you are eating this stuff in a scene all day long and you have to match the way that you were eating it before, like if you're wolfing something down in one of these scenes, like you're eating that all day long. I listened to a podcast called The Office Ladies with Jenna Fisher and Angela Kinsey.
Nice.
Angela Kinsey from, I'm like, what's her name? Angela Kinsey from The Office. And they were talking about how like in an early episode, they had to eat this like mint chocolate chip ice cream like all day. And because it was early in the run and they hadn't learned this lesson yet, they were like wolfing it down. So they had to match that and everything. And to this day, neither one of them can eat that. And like everybody's spitting into a bucket because they can't eat all of it because it's gross. So like the knowing what happens to actors when they have to eat, like whenever I see a scene that is about like munching and wolfing things down rather than just like a casual dinner in the background, it always makes me think of the spit bucket. It always grosses me out. And I just like, every time I watch it, I'm just like,
oh, honey.
So we have this ending, you mentioned it before, where Xander differentiates between the wedding and their marriage. And he's all confident and he's all sweet and he comforts Anya. There's all of that kind of stuff. But in a week, we're going to have his issues with family and marriage and the future and all of that kind of stuff absolutely destroy their future together. So like his being all confident and comforting in this episode with absolutely no foreshadowing for what's coming up in Hell's Bells feels off to me.
Yeah, it feels super off. It feels super off. I feel like we missed an episode between As You Were and Hell's Bells in terms of Xander's emotional arc-ish. Whatever. It's not really an arc.
Yeah.
It's like a sharp turn. And, you know, and there's a whole, there's a whole, rich inner life for Xander that could be existing where he's saying these things because he wants them to be true, right? We saw him last week, like, comforting Anya in this way that I was like, this shouldn't raise red flags for me, but it does. Like, why is he being so nice to her all of a sudden? So, yeah, I mean, there is a narrative in which Xander is having this internal struggle of, I really want this to be the case. I'm projecting outward confidence that our marriage is going to be great, but I have these deep-seated fears about myself and my ability to be a caring partner to this person. But it's not set up at all. It's not there at all. It's presented as this, like, lovely little, this comforting, lovely little moment of connection between them with their, respective families destroying their apartment outside.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work, really? I mean, it works.
Yeah.
Like, it would be great if we went on to have a fantastic wedding or, a hellmouth wedding where hilarity ensues, but it wasn't, the conflict wasn't Xander sees, something that he is afraid of happening in their future together. I don't know, man.
It's all weird. Although I do like the line, your friends are demons and my family are monsters.
Yes.
I actually really liked that.
I like that a lot. I like Xander trying to establish this as we are a team here because they have been, at odds with each other over the wedding planning. And then their families show up and suddenly it's, oh yeah, this is about us as a team. This is, I don't know. Complicated.
It would have been nice if they had actually gotten married and been happy together. But yeah, it's so weird to have this come right before Hell's Bells. But I'm sorry, I got so grossed out over the food eating that I think I stomped all over what you liked about that. What you liked about the chips.
I like the chips. Mostly what I like is the transition from Xander. They're at the Bronze and Xander is stress eating and completely defending his right to stress eat. And then we see them. Then the next time we see them is in the car together and they're both eating chips and they have both like taken this on as this is how we're coping. And it becomes a shared coping in that, previously Xander is very territorial about his chips. And then when we see them, the next time we see them, they're sharing chips. And, he's like, Cool Ranch. And Anya's like, Cajun Fiesta. And they're just, I don't know. There's something about it that I love so very much. I think it's like, we're team us and we're team chips.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like it. I'm glad
that you like it. I think that's great. Also,
smile.
like the final scene in the bathroom feels like if you extrapolate the I'm eating chips, we're eating chips, we're in the bathroom together after having just vomited up all the chips.
Oh! If they were sick together, that would be kind of sweet. Not in
it is kind of sweet.
I don't want any gross out humor there, but just the indication that like maybe they're taking care of each other with like some antacids or something.
Exactly, that there's some kind of because the fact that they're both in the bathroom hiding out, and this is of course not Anya's first rodeo hiding out in a bathroom.
Right.
We had her doing that in, I believe it was the Yoko Factor when everybody's fighting in season 4, and she and Tara just in the bathroom admiring Giles' tile.
Yes.
So Anya hiding out in the bathroom is definitely a thing. But yeah, like I don't know. I have such a difficult time with Xander and Anya because there are a lot of things like I freaking love Anya.
Yeah.
I adore Anya. And there are a lot of things that I like about Xander when he's not with Anya.
Yeah.
But the way that he treats her, the way that he talks to her, and then we have this one nice moment, which of course, if you have any knowledge of what's coming up, which we do, fully spoiled Buffy podcast, is that that he's gonna leave her at the suggestion that their future might be this thing.
I know. It's such a bummer. Yeah. It's such a bummer. Yeah.
It is. It's really weird. We'll talk about that when we get to Hell's Bells next week. But
Yeah.
Now we have Spike.
You gotta talk about your
right?
favorite part.
Oh my God. I know. I feel bad. I'm just, because I know people, I know people listening must be like, oh, here goes Lonnie talking about Spike again. But Spike is the good stuff. All right. So Spike selling dangerous demon eggs on the black market as the doctor is so fucking stupid. And I hate it. And yet really kind of on brand.
Yeah.
Right?
It's so stupid. It is so stupid that it fits with Spike. At least for me. Like, that is absolutely the kind of thing, the kind of scheme he would come up with. Yeah.
Yeah, it is, and, like I said, also brings us back to that reference in Double Meat Palace, I can get money, so we know that he's doing stuff to get money. And clearly, that crypt is not decorating itself. He's got to pay for all that stuff. But the thing that I really find super interesting is just this one quiet little moment, in this at the end when Buffy's breaking up with him. And she says, I'm using you and I'm hurting you. Mm-hmm. And he's like, no, that's okay. No, but I like it. No, it's okay. Yeah. Right. But when she says, and it's killing me, that's when he stops.
Yeah.
That's when he stops pushing. That's when he accepts it because he loves her. And God damn it, that is so freaking complex. That performance is so complex. And it always brings to mind for me this line from the novel Wild Ride, written by Jennifer Crusie and Bob Mayer. And the line is this: he loved her all he could, but he couldn't love her very much. Mm-hmm. Right. And the thing about that always makes me think about this is I would like tweak it just a little bit, because I think Spike does love Buffy very much. And I think if you tweak this quote to he loved her all he could, but he couldn't love her very well.
Yeah.
I think it speaks to something of the experience of being genuinely loved by a genuinely bad and broken human. You know? And if Spike had lied to her, if that had been what had woken her up, not fucking Riley and his stupid little perfect life in his helicopter or whatever, but her realizing that Spike can never be what she would need in order to be able to love him, that he loves her all he can, but he can't love her very well. And she knows that she could never love him because she could never trust him. Mm-hmm. And in order for all of this to matter, though, we have to mix in a realization that she specifically needs to love the person she's with. Because not everyone does, and that is okay.
Yeah.
Casual sex is perfectly fine. But if she had a realization that that's something that she needs, and in that moment when she says, tell me you love me, tell me you want me, like maybe that'll be enough.
Yeah.
And realizing that it's not, because she needs to love him back, and if they had written this properly, because he lied to her, mm-hmm. and she can't trust him.
Yeah. There's something really crunchy there too, if you wanted to explore mm-hmm. that line of, character, which is, he loves her and she knows mm-hmm. it and she believes him. Maybe that's your first hurdle, right? The first hurdle is, well, I don't believe he's really capable of loving me. Okay. Mm-hmm. So then she clears that hurdle and she gets to the place where she believes that he really loves her, and it's still not working. It's still not working. Or she doesn't love him. Like, maybe she believes that she can't love him because she doesn't believe that he really loves her. But then she integrates that and she's like, oh, shit, mm-hmm. I still don't love him.
Because I can't trust him.
Yep. And then that's the next, like, crunchy layer that you get to add in there, right? Of like, I believe he loves me, but I don't trust him.
But I can't, right.
I need
to
be with someone I can trust. Which also nicely kind of retcons a bunch of Buffy's other relationships mm-hmm. or attempts at relationships, right? If it boils down not to, does this person love me, but do I trust this person? Yeah. That's an interesting line.
That is interesting.
Emotional inquiry. But
mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would have been so much better if it was less about, we're back to, I don't even know what they're doing, right? Because mm-hmm. Riley's big refrain is, you're the first woman I ever loved. And that's mm-hmm. supposed to hit something, right? Because we've already had Buffy say to Spike, tell me you love me. And he's like, I love you. Mm-hmm. What is going on here? I don't know. I want it to be better. I want it to be better than it is because there's potential there.
There is potential there. I think that, yeah. So I don't know. The whole thing is, and it is frustrating because it's so close.
Yeah.
You know, like it could have been like another revision on this, another revision to lay that track of I don't love him. Maybe I could love him. Okay, I can't love him. Maybe I can trust him. That I know he's going to do stupid stuff, but I also know he will tell me the truth if I ask him something directly. Like, or something like that. And then finally, when he does that, she knows that she can't have this relationship, even though she wants it, even though it's okay to want hot sex with a sexy vampire, which is okay.
Yeah.
You know, and to have her reject the shame of it. But here it seems like she's embracing the shame as though that is the absolute correct interpretation of what's going on here. And I don't think that that works. I really would have loved to have seen them do something more nuanced and interesting with that, but they didn't, you know, so whatever. But one of the other things that I really love in this is that there's 2 times in the entire run of the series that Buffy calls Spike William, which is his birth name. The first was in No Place Like Home when she finds him lurking on her lawn. This is the famous out for a walk bitch scene. And then here when they break up, and to me it kind of feels like bookends. Like the first time she's mocking him and calling him by his human name, and I had the thought, is that dead naming for a vampire?
Oh, that's a really interesting read. Especially,
you know, I hadn't thought about it in that context.
That's a really interesting read.
But I mean, if it is, it's even colder. But it's like if she's dead naming him, then right, you know, and kind of mocking him. Like this time, it feels like she's okay to try to find a bookend, like comparativeness in this, and this isn't real, like life naming him, you know, like seeing the human inside, maybe trying to access the human inside. And I find it interesting she never once called Angel Liam. You know, there's an affection in calling him William this time. There is something that it does feel like, because in No Place Like Home, that's right after we find out that he's in love with her, but she still doesn't know, you know? So calling him William then, she's mocking him. And here she is connecting with him. She's showing him that she sees him as a person.
Yeah, it
named
is. It's
William.
a human. She's like humanizing him or like rehumanizing him. It's interesting. It's a really interesting moment. I don't know how I feel about it.
I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
Yeah.
And I like it. I like it. I think that's neat. And then when she walks out into the sunlight, I mean, it's beautiful. Yeah. I love that. All right. So, Noelle, I have been waiting after reading your notes for this whole episode to ask you this question. What are you wearing?
Well, I have not 1, but 3 notes in my notes about Buffy's yellow coat. And they all have multiple exclamation points on them because that yellow coat, y'all. I love that coat.
I love it so much.
I love that coat. So I cannot look at prominent yellow in the frame without thinking about Jaws, which was my first exposure to the idea that color could be used as a visual leitmotif in film and television. So in Jaws, yellow shows up to indicate caution in the caution sign sense. And I'm tempted to read it that way here, but I don't think that's quite it. So it seems interesting and noteworthy to me that at the end, when Buffy goes to talk to Spike or William about ending things between them, she's wearing purple, which is the opposite of yellow on the color wheel. And then she ends the scene and the episode by walking out into the sunlight, as you just mentioned. So that final scene with her in purple walking into the sunlight tempts me to reverse engineer the meaning of the yellow coat as being a kind of false sunshine. You know, Buffy is wrapping herself in this blanket of false positivity with a cheerful, sunny, everything's fine color. You know, yellow is often associated with happiness, clarity, and sunshine. But yellow is also associated with fear and cowardice, especially in the archaic insult. So I like the idea of Buffy's yellow coat as a symbol of false, affected cheerfulness, literally something she puts on that also represents fear. especially in that moment where we see her sleeping under the coat like a blanket. It's
that is such a brilliant read.
I mean,
I love that.
And like I say, I don't know, I don't know if it's that, but that coat, not only is it visually striking, but it does end up being a tiny, not plot point, character point of it gets grass stained because Spike has sullied it for her. And then she has to wash it. There's
God. I love it. And sunlight being a thing that is naturally aversive to a vampire. Like she's almost reaching for some kind of protection from that relationship with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. That is, I mean, you've done a lot of genius reads throughout the run of Still Pretty, and I know you ain't done yet, but that was amazing. That's one of my favorite things you've ever come up with. I love that read.
Well, and I also
so much.
Freaking love that coat. I mean, come on.
That coat is amazing. I love that coat. But that is a brilliant freaking read. All right. So what's your favorite part?
You're gonna hate this. It's Anya and Xander in the car with the hell radio and the stress eating. I love the line that precedes all of that too, of I think we died in this car. What is it? I think we died in this car and now we're in hell. And Xander says the radio said there wouldn't be any traffic, and Anya just totally matter of fact says, well, of course it would. It's a hell radio.
It's a hell radio.
I love the shared hell radio and the stress eating. I love them, after the previous interaction over the chips. I love them sharing chips. The communion of stressed chips is the holiest of communions.
It is a holy communion, and it always reminds me of that time when you and I were hanging out and sharing an entire bag of Doritos between the two of us.
Yep. We did so well. I'm proud of us.
Yeah. We were close before that, but ever since, that is absolutely tightened up our relationship. I gotta say, for my favorite part, I love that moment when Spike says, "You know what I am, you've always known."
Yeah.
Because it's right and it's true. And I love the way that Marsters reads that with that heartbreak and the break in his voice. I mean, it's so good. But honestly, I think my favorite part is when she says, "And it's killing me," and he stops. And only when he realizes that it's hurting her is he willing to let her go.
Yeah.
And there's something about that I absolutely love. Of course, it's a Buffy and Spike thing. Of course.
Yeah.
Because it's me. And it's my favorite part.
If you enjoyed this conversation and would like to join in, connect with the show on Twitter. Follow @Chipperish and use the hashtag #StillPretty.
This episode of Still Pretty was brought to you by the Chipperish media producers who support us on Patreon at the power producer level. These people are the reason why Still Pretty is coming to you free and ad-free right now. So thank you to our January producers: Shelly, Kristen, Jonathan, Rose, Erica, Alice, Abigail, and Sarah. And this week's special message for our power producers: were you always this tall?
To find out how you too can support Chipperish Media, visit patreon.com/Chipperish. Other ways to show your support: write a great review on Apple Podcasts, tell your friends about the show, or do not take my chips.
We'll be back next time with Hell's Bells, the 16th episode of season 6. Until then, you know what? Let's call it a night. If it's all the same to you and you've been eating that stuff, I'm not sure I want to bite you.